Every year for the past 16 years, I have prepared an essay during Muharram. And as Muharram arrives, the example of Hussein and the Ahl al-Bayt in their resistance to tyranny and adherence to the message of God meets the moment we happen to find ourselves in. They are the personification of courage, resolve, dignity, and humility. The Prophet's household, the Ahl al-Bayt, are the superlative examples of resolve and resistance in the service of humanity and faith. The Ahl al-Bayt are our blueprint of how to live, and it is no different this year. The instructions set by Hussein at Karbala will meet the moment forever, giving us resolve against obscene treachery and untruths of the kind we are witnessing now. The whole world is witnessing in real time the ongoing genocide in occupied Palestine, including in Gaza and the West Bank and now Lebanon, and Yemen, Somalia, Syria, Iraq, and of course this year's attack on Iran and Iran's status in this. And if I may quote from the Surah Rum in the Quran, Ghulabat-e Rum, Rome has been defeated, but it will regroup. Let me attempt to recite 3 verses of Anis, which I learned from my father, and which meet the moment of Muharram every year and seem particularly poignant this year. Is daste muntashir mein hai daste khuda ka zor, pani hai mere zor ke aage hawa ka zor, taqat agar dikhaun risalat ma'ab ki, रख दूं ज़मीं पे चीर के ढाल आफ़ताब की. ये तो नहीं कहा कि शाए मशरिकैन हूँ, मौला ने सर झुका के कहा मैं हुसैन हूँ. In this trembling hand is the power of God. The river in front of this power is but air. If I were to show you the power of the revered prophets, I would tear apart the sun itself and bring it to the ground. I have not said I am the king of the 2 easts. Mawla bowed his head and said, I am Hussein. This year we see in stark relief what it means to be Haidari and Husseini and what it means to be Yazid. Yazid was a zalim. In Quranic usage, Zulm is not merely a legal violation, it is a distortion of reality, whether in one's heart, in social relations, or in systems of power. A tyrant is more than unjust. He is a zalim because he violates the moral order of existence itself. We cast our entire framework of belief in conscious belief and being morally awake as opposed to distorting reality and violating the moral order of existence. And in our times, Zionism is that Yazidiyat. In our modern age, we are witnessing the battle between the morally awake and Zionism. And the Quran wants you to be a thinking, conscious person, morally awake. Right out of the gate, the Quran commands you that it is for those who are conscious of what has come before the Quran, the Torah and Gospel. And to be Muslim is to be the believers, mu'mineen, who believe in the true Torah, unadulterated, and the true Gospel, the Old Testament, and to have this wisdom that comes from knowledge of both. The Ahl al-Bayt are the lived Quran, cloaked and garmented in the Quran. I took up lessons in reading the Quran in Arabic 3 years ago, and since then have read it every day, though I have read it in English all my adult life because I do not know Arabic. I want to read you a portion of an essay by Professor Abbas Hussain, who teaches in the Faculty of Arts and Sciences at the ACNA University. His essay is titled Quranic Voice. Most of us who read the Quran in English or Urdu do so with a quiet, unexamined assumption that we are encountering the text itself. We underline verses, quote them in arguments, and even build moral positions upon them, rarely pausing to ask how much of what we are reading belongs to the Quran and how much belongs to the human voice that carried it into our language. Yet, the moment revelation crosses into translation, it enters the fragile world of interpretation, a world shaped by history, culture, theology, and the moral imagination of the translator. This matters far more than we usually admit. The Quran is not a book of abstract doctrines. It speaks in a moral and psychological language about fear, desire, power, gratitude, betrayal, patience, hope, and trust. When these words are filtered through a translator's assumptions, a theology quietly enters the reader's mind. Consider a word as central as taqwa. It is routinely translated as piety or fear of God. Both are partial. Piety carries a Victorian moralism that suggests social respectability. Fear suggests anxiety before punishment. But in the Quran, taqwa points to something closer to moral awareness, a kind of inward attentiveness to the reality of God. It is less about trembling and more about being awake. When we reduce it to fear, we create a religion of nervous obedience rather than conscious responsibility. Or take nafs, often rendered simply as self or soul. In the Quran, nafs is dynamic. It desires, resists, lies to itself, regrets, and sometimes grows. It is the arena of moral struggle. When translation flattens it into a static soul, we lose the Quran's profound psychology of human conflict. Its insight into how people deceive themselves, even while believing they are sincere. The same happens with zulm, frequently translated as wrongdoing or injustice. In Quranic usage, zulm is not merely a legal violation. It is a distortion of reality, putting things where they do not belong, whether in one's heart, in social relations, or in systems of power. A tyrant is more than unjust. He is a zalim because he violates the moral order of existence itself. When this depth is lost, Quranic ethics shrink into rule-keeping. Translation also shapes what we think the Quran is for. Some renderings make it sound primarily like a book of laws. Others make it sound like a collection of moral maxims. Yet in Arabic, the Quran reads like something else entirely. A voice speaking to the human being in moments of doubt, temptation, gratitude, despair, and hope. It argues, questions, warns, consoles, and provokes. The Quran's meaning lives not just in vocabulary, but in rhythm, metaphor, and layered association. To translate it is to choose which meanings to highlight and which to mute. The way we translate the Quran shapes the kind of Muslims we become. Anxious or awake, obedient or responsible, rigid or morally alive. The Quran speaks to the human condition. Our task is not merely to read its words, but to learn how to hear its voice. But as the article has pointed out, even reading it and listening to it in Arabic gives me such a sense of reassurance, such a sense of solace and consolation. And listening to the recitation of the Quran makes it clear that one is in the presence of the divine, as if the divine is just visible for a brief nanosecond and one gets this fleeting, ephemeral glimpse and then it is just beyond us. But one has that sensation of being enveloped by the divine under a canopy of consolation, a solace, a reassurance of a warm, safe cover or cloak or cape. The Ahl al-Bayt are the lived Quran, cloaked and garmented in the Quran. What is God reassuring us of in the Quran? God is reassuring us that He is a creator and we are human. We are the family of humans. He is warning us against clans and tribes and bloodlines. We are humans, and He alone with no partner is the creator, singular. We can say that this is His command or His reassurance to us. He is the one creator, and we are the humans He has created who must awaken the innate attributes He has given us. The Ahl al-Bayt are the exemplars of this, of being Bani Insan. The Ahl al-Bayt, the Prophet's household, are the lived Quran. The Quran, right away in the second surah, Surah Baqarah, begins by saying that the Quran is for those who are conscious, those who have knowledge of the Torah and the Old Testament, the Gospels as God has sent them, that this is the book of which there is no doubt, a guidance for those who are conscious of Allah. What does God command all of us in the family of human beings? God is commanding us to be human, Bani Insan. God is commanding us to have moral awareness, an inner attentiveness to the reality of God, to be awake to the idea of responsibility to our fellow human beings, to be wise, Taqwa. God is commanding us to be fair and just, al-Muqsitun. God is commanding us to be helpful to our fellow humans, al-Nasirin. God is commanding us to be always thankful, al-Shakirin. God is commanding us to be patient, al-sabirin. God is commanding us to be conscious, al-muttaqin. God is commanding us to be honest, al-sadiqin. God is commanding us to be genuinely devout, submitting entirely in the way of Allah, in our actions, peaceful and humble, al-qanitin. God is commanding us to be prayerful or be mindful of at all times to follow His commands, al-ibadin. God is commanding us to submit, al-sajidin. God is commanding us to be believers in the message as it came in the Torah and the Gospel, al-mu'mineen. The Ahl al-Bayt, their lives and their stand at Karbala and after it is the lived Quran, the meaning of the Quran, the demonstrated and practiced Quran, the struggle for moral responsibility to ourselves and our fellow human beings. Muharram for us is the resolve to practice God's message. God has sent us the word and we keep our word. And the word bends towards being fair and just, being faithful to the word of God. From Hussein's decision for the final stand in the manner that he chose to save the true message of God, and then to the first of Muharram onwards, we repeat the narrative of these attributes and commands. Hur's arrival at Karbala to join Imam Hussain embodies these attributes, and then the patience and fortitude of thirsty and hungry people who are under siege by an overwhelming force, but they are completely reassured and nourished that they are on the side of God, Hizbullah. It is the 9th and soon it will be dawn. At Fajr there are azans in every direction. The enemy coalition forces are calling to prayer as well. They call themselves Muslims, but submit to Yazid. And here Ali Akbar will call to prayers, his final azan before he submits entirely in the way of that call, and they will all pray. The Quran commands us to be prayerful. We can imagine that in this moment, as Ali Akbar goes to give the call to prayer, his aunt Hazrat Zainab stands watching and listening. They're all thirsty and have not had water for 3 days, but they are patient. God is commanding us to be patient, al-sabirin. And who has more sabr and patience than Zainab at Karbala? And patience is what is to follow in the days and months after. And then it is the 10th of Muharram, Ashura. To have arrived here at this moment, Hussein has been fully conscious of what he is doing to save the message of God, as was sent in the Torah and the Gospel and the Quran. He is fully aware and fully cognizant, as is his sister Zainab, of what is to be done. He is in his sajda, bowing, bending, as though the arc of history is bending towards truth and justice and humanity, bending to the entire inheritance of faith as embodied in the true Torah and Gospel and the Quran. Hussein is humanity itself being saved as he bends towards the preservation of justice. Hussein, mortally wounded, sinks to the earth and places his forehead to the ground in sajda. He is the embodiment of Sajjad, the exemplar of al-Sajidin. He is the embodiment of Qanitin, the superlatively, genuinely, truthfully devout. He is Taqwa itself. In his intent, he is Abraham. In his stance, he is Moses and Aaron confronting Pharaoh. In his forbearance and innocence, he is Jesus, the son of Mary. In his belief and reassurance and sacrifice of the Ahl al-Bayt and himself for safeguarding the message of God for all of humanity, he is prophecy of the Quran, the savior of humanity. He is the Zibbe Azim, the ultimate sacrifice. The Ahl al-Bayt are the exemplars of how to live and how to save. How alone is Hussein? Aaj shabbir pe kya aalame tanhai hai. Zulm ke chand pe zehra ke ghata chai hai. Us taraf lashkare ahda mein saf arai hai. Yahan na beta, na bhatija, na koi bhai hai. Today, what a state of aloneness descends on Hussein. Cruelty's storm rises around Zahra's beloved son. On that side are the bloodthirsty ranks of the coalition forces. And here, no son, no nephew, no brother is left. Hussein is so alone. Labbaik, Ya Hussein, labbaik. You are not alone. We are till eternity with you.